Do you remember when your mother found out that she was pregnant with you? Because that initial transmission of thought, that awareness of you, the emotional response to that is probably the same program that permeates your entire life. Okay, now this is going to get a little strange. I'm going to go a couple levels deep on here, and you do need to have some alignments to some other concepts such as time not existing linearly, multiple realities, concepts in quantum physics. I'll explain one right now, and then I'll get into what it means with basically how to we want to make sure that your mother's awareness of you, that first spark, is of the highest order. Okay, and you can shift that. For most of us, especially people like me who were first born, our mother's awareness of ourself might not have been the greatest reaction, okay? And feelings like guilt and worry, anxiety, disgust, being scared, these things could have come through your mother into you at the moment of awareness of you. Now, why is this moment of awareness? I keep on explaining it. There's this concept in quantum physics where, and this is a concept that is over 100 years old, where light can show up as either a particle or a waveform. That concept is over 100 years old. What scientists just recently figured out in the last few decades is that whether it shows up as a particle or a waveform depends on the observer, depends on the experiment. If the experiment is set up to view light as a particle, it'll show up as a particle. If the experiment is set up to view light as a wave, it'll show up as a wave. And you can look up the double slit experiment. And it's been replicated so many times in different ways. All comes down to the same thing. That reality is influenced by the observer. There's another study you can look up. Just look up baby chickens random machine generator, and you should find something. I'm not sure. But it's basically this machine, and it's programmed to turn right or left or straight or backwards. And it's basically programmed to turn in different directions. And when they put it into a field, it just basically turns in different directions all throughout the field. This is going to come back to you and your mother's awareness of you in a second. And so they set the robot up, and it turns and turns and turns and turns. It goes all over the field, right? Then they take a bunch of baby chickens, and they take that same robot. They dress the robot up as a chicken. They hatch the baby chickens. The chickens think the robot is its mother. Okay, so now the baby chickens all want the attention of the mother, which is this robot that has been programmed to turn in random directions. They then take the baby chicken, set it next to the field, put the robot in the field, still dressed as the chicken. All the baby robots are like, mommy, mommy, mommy. The robot, instead of going all over the field like before, ends up just circling around right next to where the baby chickens are. Why? Because the baby chicken's intention has influenced this machine that has been programmed to generate random turns. So there's other experiments that prove that our intention affects and effects reality. Why is that important? Because when your mother first got awareness of you, that first initial, oh, I am having a baby, that thought, that stream of consciousness, that stream of emotion, that electromagnetic jolt into you, this is the program that you are likely running. And when you hear about people talking about healing ancestral trauma, this is one of the primary things I assume they're talking about. It is what I would be talking about. It is if there was any emotions that are below the level of joy and happiness and gratitude, if there's fear and anxiety and how am I going to take care of this baby and what the fuck, this is going to ruin my life, all of that stuff, those thoughts are vibrations, and we are going to receive that and then regenerate those vibrations. Now, there's concepts in quantum hypnosis healing technique, and I'm sure a whole bunch of other lineage of cultural thought on how to handle this. But the way that I was shown was to, number one, you should know, speak to your mother if that's possible, talk to her, ask her, gather information on how she felt at that moment. And you might know from stories, right, that she's told about that time. Just have a simple conversation. If that's not possible, you can also just go into a meditative state. I shouldn't say just go, but you may go into a meditative state and simply take yourself back to that time, because it's really not going back to any time. That moment in that reality, which we perceive as a moment in history, is actually a separate reality that we're connected to. So it's separate and we're connected to it. It's all this weird stuff, but we can access that. We can access that by bringing ourselves in harmony to that moment. Ask yourself questions like, where is my mom at when this moment is, right? What is she doing? What is she feeling? And you'll start to paint this picture of what was happening in that moment. Now, here's the crazy thing. Even if you don't believe me, when you start to paint that picture, because of the program of what actually happened, you will likely paint a picture that is similar, or at least emotionally colored, exactly how it actually happened. And as we harmonize into that, we can then, right? So in this infinite reality paradigm, all versions of reality are existing right now. Past, present, future, they're all existing now. So it's all present. And infinite versions of the past exist, infinite versions of now exist, infinite versions of the future exist, but it's all just happening now. And our consciousness is traveling through the versions that we experienced, that we witnessed. And we know from the Mandela effect, the past of now in this reality sometimes changes. If you're not familiar with me, just look up the Mandela effect. You'll see many examples of our past changing and being different than the past that we remember our consciousness traveling through. Those realities are not necessarily tied to this reality unless we have attachment to it, unless the program is set and we don't do anything to change it. So the best way to, if our consciousness is going in this direction and we're holding on to and attached to everything below, like let's say this is the present moment, we're holding on to everything in the past, most likely that rocket ship's going to continue going on. So what we want to do is we want to disattach from the past and sometimes rewrite the past so that instead of our past coming in this direction, maybe it was going in that direction, and we have better ability to change the future realities that our consciousness ends up going to based on us realigning ourselves to different pasts, essentially. So I'm saying past and future as if they exist, because they do exist and they don't exist all at the same moment. Everything is nothing, yada, yada, yada. Once you get into that moment of awareness of the time that your mother received awareness of your existence, simply, and it's not easy, but simply rewrite the whole script. Disattach yourself from, any potentially negative, and you actually want to release them with gratitude because that made you who you are. But if you're willing to be somebody else, disattach with gratitude and rewrite a different scenario. Rewrite a script like you were a director of your own life and your own past and even your parental history and many generations behind. Rewrite that story and really feel into it. And whether you believe this is actually rewriting the story of what your mom felt, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago, whether you believe it's true or not, this is a positive way to spend 10 minutes. It's a meditation. It's a method that you can take these feelings, right? Because when you rewrite this story, that feeling, that story's coming out of you. And as just a function of rewriting it, you are rewriting and learning how to feel different emotions than what the regular scheduled program is. You are learning to rewrite that, and then you can take that as an example and reapply it to the things that you do believe are real, the things that are happening in your life. So go ahead and rebirth yourself.